Hey everybody, it's Karen Anderson here with Aortic Hope's Weekend Review, and I also have with me
Tammy Warner.
Woo! We both thought we were both leading today, and we both ended up being here. So we're both here, and hopefully you'll let us know that you're here by clicking that like button, clicking the subscribe button, clicking the bell so that you're notified every time we go live, because we don't just talk about the Weekend Review. We do live Q&As with physicians, disability attorneys, a wide variety of people. And sometimes we just go live because we just feel like it. We got something on our mind, something we want to say. So you want to be notified about this. It's important because we do giveaways, spontaneous things like that. And so clicking that bell will let you know when we're live. But don't forget to do that. And drop us a line. Leave us a little message. We'd love to hear from you and banter with you. Get your thoughts and views on the Weekend Review. So heads up, Tammy, I have gremlins that live in my soon-to-be old router. So if it kicks me out, I will be rejoining via a phone. So I'll be looking like this. You take over, girl. You take over. You can do it. All right, so let's get started with Movement for Movement Movement for Movement Monday. I feel like I talk about this all the time. We have since 2020. It was just our luck that we created this initiative to get people all pumped up to move. And then COVID hit, and then y'all had no choice but to move because we were scared to even go outside, only walk around our house, right, for a period of time. Yep, remember that? I was like, oh my God, you're taking a walk in the woods? Like, how daring, pull up your mask as you pass. Nobody looked at each other. It's like, it's very weird.
We started a bit, one of the funniest things we did during that time for movement on Mondays, we were walking outside and all of my neighbors, I live in a neighborhood, put teddy bears in their windows, and we did a teddy bear hunt. And so you would walk around the neighborhood looking to see which window the teddy bears were in that week.
That's so cute. Isn't that when people started these like baskets of wine that people would drop off at people's homes? I never got one of those. I didn't have a wine fairy, but we should go back to it just because Friday nights are fun.
It was wine fairy.
You got one? Yeah, I would like a wine fairy. Okay. I'd probably just like a Hostess cupcake fairy, but that's a whole other conversation. All right. So as we know, doing nothing in this community is doing something. That's usually what your body really needs. But when you follow your doctor's orders, do whatever he or she has actually cleared you to do. When you're recovering from open heart surgery or any type of procedure, you might find it a little bit different or a little bit challenging, maybe a little bit uncomfortable or unnerving to just move. And that's very normal. So now it's spring. Perfect time to incorporate spring cleaning into your movement. I started with my office, got very tired. I had to sit down and watch a little bit of Love is Blind on Netflix. I just, shameless plug, really like that show. But I did start, and I do have to do my closet because now with 80-degree weather coming up in Maryland, I've got to get these sweaters out and these short sleeve shirts. And so Better Homes and Gardens shares in their article that was written by Jessica Bennett. It's called Spring Cleaning. It's like the ultimate checklist, the ultimate guide to a tidier home that we can, quote, welcome spring by giving your home a good deep clean. And their guide that they have over here really breaks down the must-do chores into like a 3-step type of a checklist. It's a system. So first, there's the spring cleaning checklist and things that you have to do, or the to-dos. And then there's the once a year tasks that are ideally suited for spring. And we always say that with daylight savings is a good time to change the batteries, right? So that's a great time to change batteries on your blood pressure cuff. So there's other things that we can incorporate for our community into that. But they do talk about how the next step would be to tackle exterior spring cleaning if you're able to. And that would be including some tips on fix-ups and repairs to the outside of your house. And finally, they go over a room-by-room cleaning tips kind of checklist that will help you actually declutter and tidy up specific areas. So let's take a look at this checklist a little bit more. Of course, I can't really see it because it's very tiny.
I love a good checklist. I love a good checklist.
I knew that you would, and they even have it color-coded. So,
color-coded. Oh, I need little tabs now. Oh, I might print it and tab it.
I know you can, right? In like a binder, because people still use those, right? With dividers. But as you see here, so they talk about getting organized and having an effective way to kind of like deal with the clutter. And I do this too. Like I'll go to my everybody has a catch-all. Come on, everybody. You all have a catch-all. Mine's in the kitchen. As soon as you come into the garage, it's right there on the countertop. It catches everything. It catches stuff that I don't even know why it caught it. But I try at least twice a month to go through it. I separate it across the countertops, and I decide what's trash, what goes in the office pile, and hopefully it doesn't make it back in the catch-all pile, that kind of thing. So it's just like different ways for you to be more organized. So other than some of the things on this list, which because I can't see it very well, I'm not going to read it off. So I should have brought my glasses.
Do those two double arrows help on the top left corner? Does that make it bigger?
No.
Nope.
Oh,
hey.
Wow, look at that.
Oh, I think I can see it.
Wizard of all. Okay, yeah. So eliminate clutter in each room before cleaning. That's the key. And this seems like a very simple checklist. And it is in theory, because this will allow you to do things that your doctors have said is okay. If you're monitoring your heart rate or your blood pressure, this you can do sitting down. It's just moving. And if you get tired like me from just moving your arms, that's okay. You're still making progress. So let's talk about washing windows. That's not my chore. That's the husband's chore. I don't wash the windows, but I'll wash the mirrors. Cleaning sliding door tracks. You know what? So much of this, I would never, ever, I'd be like, doesn't the rain do that? No. This is why I probably never owned my own single family home and owned a condo, because I would never have thought to clean that.
I don't usually dust light fixtures. I see that on there.
But cleaning overlook surfaces, right? Like baseboards. I do that. I do in the doors. I'll do, because we have those Bible doors. I'll get into those grooves sometimes. Deep clean carpets. That's when you hire someone, right? Because that might be really heavy to push those carpet cleaners. Clean under large items. This is when you have somebody come in and lift your furniture up for you. My husband said to me early on, we have got to pull out the dryer and see what's falling behind it. And I said, people do that? I thought you only do it when you're down to one sock.
No, I would only do it if you're swapping them out for the old ones for the new ones.
I didn't even know
socks. I would just go buy new socks.
Filter at the bottom of the fridge. Did you know that? Lo and behold, there is one. I only know it because of TikTok. I'm telling you, I know everybody's against the app, okay? But I learned some important things. I didn't know these things, but this is not things that we're expecting you as a community member to undertake. Nobody's asking you to pull your fridge out, but these are just part of the cleaning list. Refresh your furniture. I do like to use Pledge and go around the furniture and touch up with like a touch-up pen. We do that at least once a year. We do that here in the Anderson home.
And you clean out your garage on a regular basis, don't you?
Twice a year, because I had the little furry mice. They like to bury their little homes. So if you don't get in there, they will bury them. What is it? What do I want to say?
Bury.
Oh yeah.
You want to say like burrow?
Burrow? Yeah, it's burrow.
It's burrow. That's what they do. They don't bury, they don't bury, they burrow.
That was like my Globetrotters thing one day. I couldn't think of the word Globetrotters.
Yeah. So yeah, I do. I moved one half of the garage to one side with my son's help. We sweep it all out, hit it with the blower, and then I get to reorganize. And that's my job. I put everything back. I will not go in there with them. Do you know that those 8-legged arachnids are in there? I'm not going near that. Heck no. Okay. Dust light fixtures. Everybody forgets about dust in the top of their fans. For me, that in all honesty, that would be challenging. Anything arms overhead, extended period of time, my arms become like wet noodles. But these are still things that could be done. Transition wardrobe twice a year, obviously. I probably go through my clothes 3 to 4 times a year, because in order to bring a lot more in, I'm supposed to be taking some out. So if I like the idea of retail therapy, I need to then dismiss some clothes for good. So I do that. So I think this is great. I mean, they even go into a room by room checklist as far as exterior, how to break it down in bedroom. I mean, I'm not flipping my mattress, but it is an important thing if somebody can help you and do that for you. It does talk about washing pillows. It's so crazy. I didn't know that people don't do that. Now I do it now.
I have done it, but I never know whether to put them in the dryer, or does it need to be a day that they can go outside and lay in the sun? Like,
that would be amazing for it to smell like the outside
Yes.
with a
So
little bit of snuggle in there too. But
yeah.
yeah. So I just thought this was a really great list. I really appreciated it. And again, this is a great way to just incorporate some of this checklist into your movement, because we all should be doing some kind of movement. So spring cleaning's here. Think about it. Think about as you change your batteries with daylight savings to change your blood pressure batteries, maybe get a whole new cuff, something like that. What were you going to say, Tam?
I was going to say, and I think you answered in this blog in the thread also. There was a couple of discussions this past week about not being able to move as much as we used to be able to, and the limitations and the frustrations in those limitations. And I think that's what's so nice about our community is nobody else knows what we've been through. So it's not like having bypass surgery and you get your strength back or something like that. It's pretty unique to our community that we mostly look fine on the outside, but we can't do what we used to do. And I think it's really great when our community can come together when somebody's asking those questions and all of us give our examples of what it looks like in our life. It makes such a difference. So if you're having some questions about your movement, go to the thread and look at what people are saying that how their life has differed.
Exactly, because from what I've been seeing from a few new members who have come into the community, doctors are still not explaining. I mean, they're not explaining what's going to be in the patient guideline handbook. They're not telling them that it's going to be probably about 12 weeks for your sternum to heal, or that the anxiety that you can develop from watch and wait could exasperate and you might find limiting in your. They're not talking about it, and I don't know why, but that's why we're here. We can just have brutally honest talks.
It does look so different for everybody.
It does.
It really does look so different. Like something that I can do, like might be really hard for you. Like we both have a lot of trouble lifting our arms over our head for very long. Yeah. That's very difficult for me. My walking has got is much better than what it was before. But what will happen with me is I don't get physically tired, but my legs start my whole gait changes and I just start pounding my feet instead of a normal gait. So it really does look different for everybody, but that's what's great about our community.
Exactly. All good points. Good points.
Keep moving. Just keep moving though.
Just keep moving. Well, instead of just keep swimming, well, you can just keep swimming, just keep moving, just keep moving. Something.
Okay.
Yeah, do something.
Okay, let's say hi to Karen Heichel.
Hey, Karen Heichel.
Karen.
She just returned from Amsterdam cruise yesterday.
Wow.
Very nice. Right? I wonder if that was a Viking cruise or what. It probably was some type of river cruise.
I said, whoa, was it amazing? And she said it was. Walked between blank and 5 miles per day one day with 20,000 steps. And
wow.
I asked, did you feel great or did it take a toll? And she said, I felt great.
Good for you.
Good for you.
I went to Universal and did about 18,000 on average a day, and I wanted to rip my feet off. I was so uncomfortable. I mean, it just took everything in my. When I laid down, I thought it would feel good, but then it smacked you, and you had them buzzing, and it was just. It was great during the day, but I was going to cry. But then I wasn't in Amsterdam. Oh, I paid for it. My mother had 2 of her toenails turned black. She bruised them from walking.
Yeah, she didn't have good shoes then. Like,
all right.
Painful.
Yeah. So Bo says Bo's back, which isn't his tagline.
Bo.
Bo is back.
And he said he's painting his outside door.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Painting the outside door. That's
said,
great.
Oh yeah, are you putting some Browns decorations on there? He's a huge Browns fan. He's like, I already do. He says, putting down mulch around the yard. Like mulch is stinking.
That's awesome.
That's work.
That's great.
Right?
That's a lot of work.
And then he says,
that's good.
My garage is a man's cave. A Browns man's cave.
Very nice.
Right?
Very nice. Good for you.
So then he says, I'll tell you what, when you're diagnosed with cancer, they tell you every step of the way what's going to happen, side effects, waiting for it even happens. They give you a handbook of what to expect, right? And so that's going back to the handbook that we're working on here, and that'll be kind of a wonderful thing to add to the community.
Oh,
Karen
yeah.
says Avalon. Is that a cruise?
Avalon
Never.
cruise, yeah.
Nice. Okay, I'm taking note of that because
Nice. Okay.
that may be in my future. That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing. Okie dokie. That's movement for Movement Monday. All right, moving on. Topic Tuesday. Thoracic aortic aneurysm. Seems simple enough. You would think that everybody's heard of it, but no, not if you just had a dissection and you didn't have an aneurysm before the dissection, or if you've had an abdominal, or it doesn't matter. It does. If you've never had a thoracic, then you might be all new words for you, but you probably have a million questions if you've been recently diagnosed. So the Society for Thoracic Surgeons, which is a wonderful organization, primarily catering to thoracic surgeons, they do have a patient website and a list of patient resources. So I haven't seen that with all the societies, but they're extremely supportive of Aortic Hope and Think Aorta. And if you can go to the Society of Thoracic Surgeons and go to the tab, it's all the way to the right that says patient website. They actually have a whole thoracic aortic aneurysm section. They have an aortic dissection section, because remember, the thoracic encompasses esophageal, lungs, it's everything that's in that upper chest area. So a lot of what we experience is in there. But what they talk about, thoracic aortic aneurysm, and I should have my water, but here we go. So the aorta is the main artery. So if this is the first time all of you are hearing about this, it's the big artery that basically carries that oxygenated blood out of the heart to the rest of the entire body. So that's the thing that looks like a candy cane. It looks like it has little arms and a little skirt at the bottom as it feeds your arms and your legs and basically the rest of your body. So the blood flows out of the heart and it goes into the aorta and it goes through the aortic valve, and it's roughly the diameter of a garden hose. That is really what it looks like if you have a garden hose handy. And the artery basically extends from the heart down through your chest, but behind, more towards the back. And it goes into your abdomen, and that's where it divides into these blood vessels that supply each of your legs. So that's the entirety of the aorta. So an aneurysm is actually a weakening in the wall of the aorta in that artery, and it causes it to balloon or expand in size. That's what an aneurysm is. And although an aneurysm can actually develop anywhere in your aorta, it actually can develop anywhere in your body, anywhere vascularly. The most common occurrence is in the section that's running through your abdominal. That's the most common area where you're going to find your aneurysms. That would be an abdominal aneurysms. But others tend to occur in different sections that run through your chest. And that was the thoracic we were talking about. That's above the diaphragm. So according to the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, aortic aneurysms were reported as the primary cause of about 9,800 deaths in the US in 2014, but the actual number is probably quite higher. Aneurysms are often found incidentally during the evaluation of other problems. So let's say you go in for pneumonia and you're having a CT scan. That's typically when they find that you might have an aneurysm. And usually thoracic surgeons tend to look at all of the CT scans that are taken in the hospital because they are looking for something that is pretty common to make sure people don't end up having a dissection. But that we'll save that for another day. So since they commonly cause no pain or discomfort unless they're unusually large, it has been reported people can fear pulsing in their stomach, or with really large aneurysms in the chest, they may have problems breathing, or they cough, or typically it is asymptomatic. They can remain silent and they can just keep growing for long periods of time before they're ever even identified. So when the aneurysm gets too large, it can cause pressure on a neighboring organ, or the wall of the blood vessel can actually split or tear. Splitting would be, or tearing would be the dissection. If it bursts, that would be considered a rupture. So there is so much information in just this section of aneurysms, everything from what causes a thoracic aortic aneurysm, the symptoms, the full list of symptoms, ways to diagnose and treatment options, and also recovery. So one of the things that we loved about, and we do love about the Society for Thoracic Surgeons is, and I'm going to click my handy arrows here, is the questions that they give you in all these different scenarios. These are wonderful tools to be able to take and feel more prepared when you talk to your doctor. So let's talk about a few of these, because I know you had an aneurysm, right? Since your dissection, Tammy.
Yes, mine is abdominal.
Okay, and so I've got two that are thoracic. So, and I feel like these questions really could pertain to either abdominal or thoracic. So the first one I'm sure everybody wants to know is, will your condition get better without treatment? Or could it get worse? And I don't know if a lot of these questions we're going to go over are actually ever just voluntarily discussed with a doctor. I think these are things we might have to bring up in these meetings. Do I need surgery to fix what I'm looking at? I think that's my question every time. Do I need surgery? Is it time for surgery? Do I need surgery? Because it's scary. You need to prepare, especially thoracic. If you're looking at open, you're looking at another year's recovery. If you're looking endovascularly, you're not. If it's abdominal, could be a stent also. So the different techniques are, they hold a bearing on our life. Are there any lifestyle changes that you can make to avoid surgery? Well, we all know that aneurysms don't shrink. So I feel like when people ask this question in the community, you can only control what you can control. And that is following the doctor's orders, right? Following any restrictions, eating with better common sense, no straining. I never tell people no lifting because I really don't know what their restrictions are, but no straining, right? Okay. What are options if you need to have your valve replaced? So not a lot of people realize that there is called resuspension of your valve, or there is going to be a replacement option, whether it's a tissue or mechanical. And I have already asked my doctors, like, what kind of valve would you do for yourself or a family member? Like, you live and breathe this. Why would you choose what you would choose? And every time they choose something different than what I want to choose in my mind. So I'm still educating myself. These are important questions. You didn't get a chance to make your decision, or did you?
I didn't have a choice. But I've never really known why he picked a tissue valve over a mechanical valve for me. But I'm really glad that I am with the tissue valve, because I'm one of those people that I don't know. They say you get used to the sound, the clicking sound. I don't know that I could ever get used to the clicking sound.
Yeah.
So
that's me too. And I mean, even though you don't have to go for blood tests anymore to check certain blood clotting levels, you can just, right. And you and I both are like, blood tests are out the door. I don't think I could live with hearing clicking. So, and I know that if you have tissue, it's very easy to repair endovascularly, but I think if you have mechanical, you have to be open. So I don't know.
And then, like, I have a hard enough, I don't know about you. I know my dissection went through one side of my carotid artery,
right?
My left side. So when I try to sleep at night, if I try to sleep on that side, I can hear the pumping, and I can't stand it. I have to roll over onto the other side so I can't hear it. So I don't know what I would do with a mechanical valve. They say you get used to it and you don't even notice it. I just don't know if I ever could. So I'm glad I didn't have to
in you. I see what I feel when I do this. I know. I'd love to know if anybody's watching. If you have your valve, do you have mechanical? Do you have tissue? I'd love to just have a whole conversation one night about it. Let's look at what they look like. Show me, let's get a surgeon to talk. I think we'll do that, because I think it's not discussed openly enough, but that's one. Okay. So how often do you perform this procedure? How often are you working on aneurysms, and what's the success rate? That's an important question. And even though most of these doctors are doing these every single day, and they would rather repair an aneurysm than a dissection any day of the week, I think it's for peace of mind you should ask. Potential side effects of having surgery, of having certain valves. That's important. Are you a candidate for minimally invasive surgery? Meaning, do you have to be cut open? And if so, why? Ask those questions. Can you walk me through the entire treatment process? How long will I be in the hospital? Are there any restrictions afterwards? How long am I going to be out of work? Or how long before I can exercise? Do I have to change my diet or my lifestyle? Do I have to take long-term medications? We know that with mechanical valves, you're on blood thinners for the rest of your life. But sometimes you might have to be too with a tissue. There are certain circumstances. So, and what's follow-up look like? Again, thoracic surgeons, Society of Thoracic Surgeons, STS, Really valuable website for resources and patient website. It's easy to read. They have wonderful videos. The doctors are giving these videos of the hosts, and it's just good information. Have you had a chance to look at any of that?
One of the things that I would always add to any list that you talk to with your doctor when you're making a decision about a procedure or surgery, I always ask, I learned this during breast cancer, I always say, is your plan based on best practice of what you would recommend for me, or are you recommending what my insurance will pay for? Because I need to know what best practice is for me and let me decide whether I can afford to pay out of pocket for what's. Yeah, I learned that during breast cancer.
That's a really great question. I mean, and not everybody's in the position to pay out of the pocket, but if you can, I think it is important. And because if a doctor, even if they are recommending something that maybe your insurance can't pay for, let them fight for you with an authorization.
Right.
You know?
I just found this out. I developed lymphedema in my arm after my last surgery from my breast cancer. And I've changed insurance in the last year, and the insurance that the last sleeve paid, the last sleeve was wonderful. It was custom fit. It fits really well. I hardly know I have it on. I expected that was going to happen with the next insurance when we had to order another one, and that didn't happen. And I'm so mad at myself because I had to pay some money out of pocket, and it was $3,000 out of pocket. And a crappy sleeve. So I wish I had asked those questions beforehand.
That's important.
Yeah, it's very important.
That's really great. That's good information. Yeah.
Okay. Let's say hi to Alan Martins.
Hey, Alan.
And they said,
thanks for joining us.
Question 1 can never be answered correctly.
Oh, the first question that we just had from Topic Tuesday. Okay, let me pull that back up. I'm curious to see.
Control Shift T.
Control Shift T. You wizard. All right, question 1. What was that?
I'd like to know.
Will my condition ever get better without treatment? You're absolutely right. Or could it get worse? That really is a very hard question. I think natural and normal to ask. They're not going to tell you. Well, I mean, maybe they will. If they can tell, I mean, if you're sitting there with a 7-centimeter aneurysm, they pretty much know that your condition will not get better without intervention. It's just never going to shrink. And it really could only get worse. It could stay the same, but there's a higher chance that it could get worse.
Right.
And
we
there's
know
no
that
chance
aneurysms don't shrink.
Right.
Wouldn't get put on high blood pressure medicine be considered a treatment though?
Yeah. Yeah, being put on medication. Part of the treatment is routine follow-up. That's that's a treatment plan, is to have follow-up care and be monitored. Yeah, it would be, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to still find growth. That's up to the cells and your DNA and your body. You know, you can be in intense pain and you could still grow. Yeah. And that shocks a lot of doctors. Like you get some other incident, you break a leg, you get a hideous flu, and next thing you know, your body's fighting whatever, and you find out a year later your aneurysm grew.
Oh, wow. They said, I've gained 150 pounds, severe high blood pressure, and mine has never grown in 17 years now.
See, you're so incredibly lucky. Yeah. I went from 3.6 to 4.8 in less than 1 year. And it's because I had a side effect, a complication from Crohn's disease, and was in worse pain than I ever was compared to my heart surgery. And at the end of that year of pain, when I finally had the surgical option I needed, I discovered my aneurysm grew. Because even with pain, the blood pressure was slightly difficult to keep at very low levels. It was just a little bit, like, 130s or something. It wasn't astronomically high. Just happened. And then there's the people that don't even get an aneurysm and they have a dissection. So it's so, like you said, Tammy, we're all in this group and everything can be so different, but that's interesting to hear. So you're right. My father was overweight as well. And his blood pressure though was controlled and his aneurysm never grew ever in his abdominal area. It just never did.
And I had a echocardiogram 12 weeks before mine. Didn't show anything.
Right. And there was nothing. Isn't that amazing? That's amazing. The differences. But thanks for sharing, Alan. That does give a lot of food for thought.
Yeah.
It does.
Final thought here. He says, I think it really is the luck of the draw. Obviously, someone in better shape has a much higher percentage of having that kind of luck, but you never know.
You
And
do never know.
Diane piped in and said, Wi-Fi down.
Oh, sorry, your Wi-Fi is down, Di.
Hi, Diane.
Yeah, and you never know, Alan, because there are some people that are in incredible shape. You'd be surprised how hideous their cardiac MRI scores are. Their calcium scores are over 1,000, and you would think, oh my God, they have a widowmaker. They could drop dead at any moment. But that's because they're in such good shape. It's a different type of score. It's a different type of calcium, and uh, when you're in very good shape, that doesn't mean that you're at risk.
I mean,
Maybe you're working out too
we have
much.
several people in the community that are in amazing condition, and
Yeah.
whatever their disease or disorder is, it launched in their mid 30s.
Yep.
Carmen
Yep.
David, she's
That's genetics.
she's stellar, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't think it makes a big difference with your recovery either. How far down you're going to be knocked as far as how long it takes for you to recover and being able to walk or do steps or whatever. I don't find any rhyme or reason to that either.
No, you really can't compare yourself to anyone. So I think Alan makes a good point. It is really hard to say, how is my condition going to play out? Could it get better or worse? Because, there are some people that they may be a workout horse and then they get hit with this and have surgery and they are down for the count for a long period of time. Yeah. You just don't know what your repercussions are going to be and what your genetics are. It really plays a big part in this as well.
I would also like to highlight the point of going back to work and the amount of people that we get in the support groups that say things like, I really wish I didn't rush going back to work. There's no way in 6 months I was ready to go back to work.
Yes.
Yeah. That's this country, which is incredible. Do you have your short-term disability? Then if you're lucky enough, you go right into your long-term. But after 12 weeks, it's like, if you're not back, you could very well be out of a job. But there are a lot of people on our board went back in 6 weeks after sternotomy, and that's insane. It is crazy. And I find it crazy that people can go back to work, but I had a different situation. Couldn't do it. So yeah. It's very interesting. Very interesting.
So I did ask a question to Alan. I asked if for 17 years no growth, how was the medication a regular thing? Was it not changed? And they said, yeah, same meds, but losartan is the key in my opinion.
It is a key, and I've read many articles. I am on that drug. It does keep your vessels, I believe, it keeps your vessels nice and spongy and flexible. Keeps a lot of stenosis really from forming and hardening and stuff. Losartan is a tried and true drug for sure. I find that to be a theme amongst a lot of people in the community.
Okay.
Yeah,
he did say that's a great point. Most people don't realize that you can dissect without an aneurysm. And then Diane said, "Yep, my niece, excellent shape. Sudden surprise."
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Just happened out of anywhere. All right. Thanks for chiming in on our topic Tuesday. We're going on to a little bit happier conversation. It's going to be our 5-year anniversary of being a nonprofit, everybody. This idea of Aortic Hope, which was originally called Hopeful Hearts, it didn't last but a hot minute. We actually came together, 3 women, myself and 2 other women, came up with the concept of an inspirational quote Facebook page back in 2016 that very rapidly realized that there was a great need of validation in the community. And we became a nonprofit in 2018. So we are hitting our 5-year anniversary. I always want to say aortiversary. I'm so used to saying that in this community. Our 5-year anniversary. And so we want you to be part of our commemorative video. We would love that. We want you to send us a video and kind of just tell us, what does Aortic Hope mean to you? You can put that in an email. You can say it in the video. You can just give a little heart. Do whatever you want. It could be you and a dog. It doesn't really matter. Just send us a little quick clip to info@aortichope.org. We're going to splash this video after our wizard puts it together in something really lovely across all of our social media platforms. We'd love to just hear from you and your thoughts about what we've meant to you, what we've been able to provide to you. It could just be one word. It could be congrats. It can be whatever you want. but we're putting that together. We'd hope to be able to display that at the beginning of May and share that with everyone.
And if you just send a picture or a video, try to have some of your aortic swag on.
Please.
Even if it's just a coffee mug.
You know, what's not on here that is going to go up there is that everybody who does send something will be entered to win a raffle. We have 5 water bottles and we have 5 mugs. So we will be giving away these gifts to individuals that are submitting their videos to us. Yeah, just our way of kind of being able to give back to the community a little bit, our way of saying thank you for being part of our community, because helping you really helps us. And without you, then we can't be helped. Well, without everybody thinking aorta, there would be no patients for us to really be able to help anyways. So it all goes back to that. But thank you again, and we hope that you participate. info@aortichope.org. Okay, let's go back into something that's a little bit more heavy. This was Therapeutic Thursday, which we do love giving our Therapeutic Thursday days to Jessica Kraken, who is a very good writer, loves to write in her first person. She loves to share with everybody her thoughts about how various topics really impact her. And she does this in a way that is also forward thinking on how it may impact any member within the community. So she really wanted to bring up anxiety. And that means something different again to everybody. I think that anxiety could be described differently. We feel it differently. We think about it differently. But it's definitely playing a role, I'm sure, in many survivor and caregivers' lives. And this is not just aortic dissection. Watch and wait is I can't say it's worse. I can't say it's better. I think that watching when you're waiting on an aneurysm is just bad in itself, right? It's unnerving, waiting to find out if that day comes that you need to have intervention. But I'm going to be speaking this from Jess's point of view. But so anxiety never really played a role in her life before her dissection, but it's definitely playing a role in her life every day now. And she's really learned a lot about what actually triggers her anxiety and how she can kind of calm her mind and center herself. We're going to take a look at some of these pictures that she's put up here too, but how to get out of a bad mood or funk. And she's saying that some of the things that you can do would be to read an inspirational quote. Well, we do that every morning because Molly Thomas does all of our quotes for 6 a.m. Clean up, your environment matters. Well, we're doing spring cleaning, so we're already doing a lot of these things. Drink lots of water, stay hydrated. It really will help. Lighten up, good lighting and brightness can really help with your mood. Do something small that's going to make you feel productive. This all goes back to our movement for movement. Do what you can do. And also take some deep breaths and meditate. Make sure your hygiene is in check. Wear something that you feel good wearing. Go get some fresh air, especially in some of the places in the country right now that's having amazing weather. Do some light exercise, listen to some upbeat music, sing, and just dance. Dance like no one's watching. That's what I do. Talk to someone, especially a friend that you know will try to cheer you up, and do something that makes you feel happy. So these are just a few suggestions that tend to work for Jess. Try them. Let us know if they work for you. Also, there's 30 different ways that you can de-stress in less than 10 minutes. We're not going to read all 30, but let's talk about some of these here. Well, I was reading head outside and stretch, and my head just said head stretch outside. Okay, like, what is that? I would not suggest skateboarding around the block. Probably would avoid that one. Count to 10. I do series of 4. I tend to rub over my eyebrow, and I like to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I will just do this over and over until I forget what I was stressed out about, which doesn't take a lot because my memory is like a flea. What are some things that you do to help you de-stress when you're feeling
outside? If I head outside, even if I just sit out on the front porch for a few minutes, that's for some reason going outside makes a huge difference for me.
I will tell you that when I go to the beach, I'm done. It's like it's all there is nothing. That is one place that I don't feel I'm missing out on anything. The phone goes off and I am just happy. I don't go in the water, but
if I can walk on the beach, that's the ultimate thing. Like,
right.
If it's
You've
nice
got good beach by you. You've got that great private beach. So that's kind of nice. Okay. This says to do 20 jumping jacks. Do you know the last time I did one? What year is this? Okay, it was probably like in 1987, so that tells you something right there. Okay, give yourself a neck massage. Focus on your surroundings. These are all pretty common things, but sometimes it's good to just reread them and get jarred by something that's common. But finding ways to actually manage stress in your life, it can really help ease the anxiety and the worry that's going on in your life. Get your daily dose, DOSE, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. There's different ways to get those different boosts of hormones, and they're all written here, a variety of ways to get dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins to get your daily dose of these. So yeah, check some of these things out. Let us know what works for you. For those of you that might still be online with us, whether it's Karen, Bo, or Alan, or Diane, let me know. What are some ways that you can de-stress?
Diane says, lots of stress, the waiting, not knowing. Hard for another to tell you don't worry when they're not in your shoes. And what she says is she puts upbeat music on and she busts a move.
I know Diane busts a move. She busts a move. I can picture doing it right now.
And she says, my flowers and gardening. Yes, I'm with Tammy.
Yep. Yeah, I know that you do that a lot, Diane. I know that you're in your she shed. I cannot say that. You definitely don't put seashells in your she shed. But in your she shed, you paint and you're exceptional at it. And I can just tell by the end result how much love you put into it. And it's like I feel more relaxed looking at the outcome of your work, of your efforts. Whereas there's some things that people do that make me feel stressed because it's like it just looks like it would be. Yours looks like you thoroughly enjoy it and that you could find yourself out there for hours and get lost in it. And so that says a lot. So I do know that you do that, which is great. Me, I put on Love is Blind on Netflix. It's a very good show.
Karen Heichel says, talk to a friend, knit.
Yeah. Talk to a friend.
Yeah, knit.
Yep. Absolutely. Especially one that's going to make you laugh. People know they can call me. I think I'm fairly entertaining. I think I can be. Yeah. I think you entertain me for sure, Tammy, when I call you. And Diane definitely entertains me.
Diane is an entertainer.
Woo-wee.
Yeah.
I just have to hear her say hi, and that's it. I'm feel much better.
She says, yes, girl, you know.
I do know. Roll Tide. All right, let's go on to Friday. So the first Friday of every month, we have a fundraiser that will typically last the entire month. Just a little extra something that we know will help you, and in turn, it helps us. So in honor, again, of our 5 years as a nonprofit, we wanted to offer you $5 off our help belts. So I usually have one right here in front of me, and I don't. So I'm not going to stretch behind me and try to reach for it because everything will fall down. But it's these, I'm going to do it. I'm doing it because I can. There's one in yellow. This one's Medic Alert. Look at that. I'm like a social media influencer. Do you see what I'm doing there? See that? Look, I know what to do. They wrap around your seatbelt. They are a seat belt cover and they Velcro and stay in place. And they come with a card in the back where you can list any medications you're taking, any allergies you have, your ICE, your in case of emergency contact person, doctor's names, numbers, the whole 9 yards. And the key is first responder is going to see this on your belt. They're going to see it, whether you're a passenger or you're driving, and it's going to catch their eye, just like wearing a Lawrence Hope medical ID bracelet or dog tag around your neck is going to do the same. This is very eye-catching. It's extremely comfortable. You can take a wet rag and just wipe off any schmutz, that means dirt, that you might find on your belt. And it comes in a ton of sayings. So you can pick out abdominal aortic aneurysm. So remember, this is what's letting the first responder know that you have a thoracic aortic aneurysm, aortic dissection, general medic alert, Marfan syndrome, Loewy-Dietz syndrome. We have Loewy-Dietz syndromes actually in French and in English. And quite frankly, if you wanted something in a different language, as long as you're willing to help me figure out the proper translation, I will make that belt happen for you. So you can pick these in yellow, in red, in black. Again, very comfortable, easy to transfer from one car to another. You might buy two. If you got two cars, buy two at this price. Why not? Right? Free shipping. So that makes that belt suggested minimum donation go from $15 to $10. Unfortunately, it has to stay the same, $20 for international, because it costs so much to send stuff to you guys. Wish I could give it to you for less, but I just can't. Domestic, $10 for the entire month of April. So you can click on the link that's on this blog post. You can use your phone and scan the QR code, or you can go right up to our Hope Shops. It's all in there if you would like to order some swag today. Do not delay. I got mine. I got red because it matches my red car.
I have mine. I have one in my car and my husband's truck.
Makes
and
sense.
I have my
Your,
shirt on
your,
today.
your aortic strong shirt. I love
Strong
it.
shirt.
Diane says,
Oh, I love it.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. That's what I
Roll
was going to
Tide,
say.
girl.
She
Roll
says,
Tide.
nice, this is a great deal. I'd advise everyone to have one in their car.
Yeah, this is the time. If you were ever thinking about grabbing a help belt, get it now. Get it now when it's only
And
$10 minimum.
We've seen people put them on their bicycles.
Yeah. Oh, no, you know what? We saw somebody in the community had it on their leash when they were walking their dog.
They were walking their child, their
That's
dog,
a great
they put it
idea.
on the leash.
Yep. You know, what if something happens to you while you're walking and you're just with your dog? That's another. I thought that was ingenious. And I've had people call me and say, well, what do I do if I've had a dissection and I have an aneurysm? My suggestion would be I'd put the aneurysm, because if an airbag goes off, they're going to probably give you a CT anyway to make sure you don't hurt your aorta. But at least if you let somebody know, I am sitting with an aneurysm right now, they're going to know that this is like serious stat. We need to get you to the ER, like really, really, really fast. But at that point, it really doesn't matter. You can list the other part of your condition on the inside. You can list any additional conditions. If you have family members, neighbors, friends that have medical conditions that you think would also be important for a first responder to know about, they can get the medical alert, the general medical alert as well. And if you're watching this and you're part of the Marfan or Lowy Dietz community or Vascular Ehlers-Danlos, tell them about these belts. We'd love to make sure that they get belts in their hands as well. It is coming to Canada. The Lowy Dietz Foundation of Canada just ordered about 50 belts. So they're going to have that at their conference in June in Halifax. So it will, it's going to service a lot of people in the community over there, which is so awesome. So we're so excited. Thank you for that. Okay, first Friday fundraiser. Blink.
That's excellent news.
All right, that takes us, what do we got?
So that's excellent news.
So exciting. So exciting. I know. All right, that takes us to Survivor Series Saturday. So our Saturdays are when we typically feature a survivor or a caregiver or someone who has maybe lost a family member. We typically feature these on Saturdays, and on the Saturdays that we don't have someone right away to feature, we want to remind you that we want to feature you. We want to feature your story. And the main reason is because the community, they really want to hear from you. You have no idea how validating hearing someone else's story can be. It not only validates what you're experiencing, even though we all experience things differently, it can like create a question in your own mind that you might want to take back to your doctor. What are your thoughts about this Survivor Series, Tammy?
Well, it was one of the very first things I looked for when I came home and could actually get back online and try to figure out what happened to me. I found more information that was truthful through the survivors that I could talk to. So and I think the Survivor Series is one of the most popular things, that it's one of the first contact that people have with us, is they're just looking for other people and they watch the Survivor Series and then they find us. But yeah, it's very, very important.
Yeah, and there's 3 different ways that you can participate. Of course, there could be 4 if you found another way. I'm totally open. But you can write your story down. That's how we started. You can just give us a blog with a picture, non-medically related, preferably. Just give us a picture of yourself, write it. I'm not going to alter anything unless there's a massive grammatical error or the format is off. That's your story is your story in your words. Doesn't have no bearing on us. We just want to read what you have to say. You can also pre-record with our producer, and don't worry if you're emotional. Don't worry if you cry. If you want to have costume changes, I don't care. I've seen cats or dogs run across the screen. It's awesome. We are survivors and patients and caregivers just like you. So we are not here to be in a box. We like it when people are just comfortable and themselves. And the third way is to just go live like we are now. Go live, tell your story, answer questions from the community members live, and be a boss. Just take it and and tell your story live. And just, it takes a lot of bravery. It really, really does. And so I commend everybody who's willing to do that. But sign up today with the link here to complete your form, and someone will be in touch with you. We really want to know a lot about the diagnosis process. Like, what did you feel and how were you diagnosed? Because so many people are misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed. And that's important to share with the medical community. And we do that by sharing your story with Think Aorta US, which is another nonprofit that is very proactive. They really try to focus on educating first responders and physicians to think about the aorta. They also work to educate the community to think aorta, think family. So we want people to share their medical history and their experiences with their families so that we can determine who's at risk and have them properly monitored so they can be diagnosed and avoid the very rare dissection. So your video may very well be shared on their website and their social media as well. Just giving a heads up on that. That is Saturday. Any thoughts on Saturday?
Hold on, we have some feedback here.
Awesome.
Karen Heichel says they're wonderful, but honestly hard to listen to sometimes.
They can be very hard.
Yeah, and I said that's very true. As I record them, I find myself constantly wiping tears off my face.
Yeah.
Alex Lima jumped into the chat here. He just recorded his last week. I can't wait for you to watch his. Yay. He recorded with his wife. Oh my God, they were so adorable.
I cannot wait to see it. That means you're going to be shown soon. So that's exciting, Alex. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I agree with Karen. I definitely find, for me, the hardest stories are the ones where there's a misdiagnosis, where especially when someone goes in and says, I've had a family member with this, or I already know I have a problem, and now I'm feeling chest pain, and they're told they're fine. Oh my gosh, it drives me bananas. It's very tough. Or anybody that sounds even familiar to what I experienced. So it's hard. I mean, especially for all of us on the board, this is what we've chosen to do is with our volunteerism work, is to be in a community where this happens multiple times a day to people, and they're constantly popping up and joining, and it's hard. And yet every time I listen to it, I still learn something. 8 years later, I'm still taking away a nuance, a way to communicate, something that I don't like about an experience. Believe me, in my little pea brain, that doesn't go far. I keep that in the front so that I won't experience that myself. But I hear you. It is hard. It's hard. Yeah. Hopefully you don't hear my pup. She's barking in the background. Must mean that there's an Amazon box now on my front porch. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Are we ready to go on to Sunday? We're almost there.
Alex
Home
says,
stretch.
Thank you. I'm glad to be part of the community.
So excited to have you, Alex. Thank you. All right. We're moving on. Share with you Sunday. Have you guys been looking for a way to give back to the community? There's so many different ways that you can do that. I mean, we're going to talk about a lot of them, everything from hosting a Facebook fundraiser for your birthday to just liking and sharing our content. Really allows other people to find us, whether on Facebook or on Instagram, on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. I think I'm remembering all of them, Josh. My head hurts. I grew up when MySpace was very exciting, so you'll have an idea. Well, I grew up when passing notes on a piece of paper was exciting. I know Tammy will agree with that. All right, but here's one of the ways that you can actually give back in a way that people have been talking about. So there is a study that is trying to create parameters and guidelines when it comes to exercise for individuals who have had an aortic dissection. And I know that people talk about this all the time. What can I lift? How much strenuous activity can I do? Like, what can I do? So this research study that is based out of UT Houston, so University of Texas, Houston, led by Dr. Siddharth Prakash, who is actually the doctor that answers all of your questions on our Ask a Doctor event every other month on Facebook. He's leading the charge with this exercise study, and it's actually in 3 different states. So one of the community members named Jack Crow, he actually just started I think it's called Aortic Athletes Facebook page. It's growing and growing and growing very quickly. I think he just started that. He's actually very lucky enough that he got to recently participate. So when I saw that he was going to talk about it, I knew I had to grab his story. I was so glad that he offered it to us. And this is what he says. So cardiologists are actually now recruiting for aortic dissection survivors to participate in the first year-long study on the effect of exercise on physical and mental health. And last week, he found out exactly what it was like to participate in the study. So he drove 10 hours from his cabin in the faraway Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where it had been snowing in Ann Arbor, which is the home of University of Michigan Wolverines and a world-class medical center, including an aortic center. So led by University of Texas at Houston, University of Michigan, and Washington University at St. Louis are jointly participating in this study. So there's your 3 locations. And so he drove to a University of Michigan hospital that was an outpatient center where they were conducting this study. So driving all the way to participate in a study sounds like a long way to go, but actually his daughter lives in Ann Arbor, so he got to visit her, which is kind of cool. And as an aortic dissection survivor who laments the absence of much sound science on exercise for survivors, he felt a personal stake in the outcome. And many people who are, I say, athletes or just extremely physically into exercise and their physical well-being, they're also very excited about this study. Look, I'm excited about this study, even though I can't do what half of those people are doing. I'm excited as well. So a woman named Christine from the university was waiting for Jack and introduced him to this other woman named Lauren, who was in administration. So Michigan's goal was to sign up 42 people in this study, which is kind of a tall order because, again, they can only be individuals who have had an aortic dissection. And aortic dissection is very rare. Being a survivor is kind of rare. And people that are willing to travel to Michigan or Houston or St. Louis twice during the 12-month time period to do certain types of exercises for a year as part of the study, that's rare too. So now you've got all these 3 different rare scenarios in order to find 42 people. The randomized process actually placed Jack into the study and not in the control group. So it's important to note that those that are in the control group, they will actually come back in a year without the benefit of the exercise program, also still serve as purpose. And without a control group, there really is no benchmark. So Jack actually started by answering a series of questions on his dissection, which he expected. And he also answered some questions about his mental health and levels of pain and energy, which he did not expect. But he has to admit that 2 years post-dissection, he deals with a fair amount of upper back pain, and his energy level, which is improved from immediately post-dissection, is not really where he was pre-dissection. I think we could probably all say the same thing is true for us. That said, he did get a lot of exercise, mostly walking up to around 15 hours a week. So Lauren and Christine fitted him with a blood pressure cuff. This is the first step after answering questions. Fitted Jack with a blood pressure cuff, which was his companion for the next 24 hours. So there are specific 24-hour blood pressure monitors that you can wear. And it basically measured his every 30 minutes, it would go off. So wherever you are, it's going to go off every 30 minutes. They brought him to the fitness center, and there was a cardiac fitness instructor present, took him through a round of exercises, including a cycling warm-up, wall sitting, arm curling with a 10-pound weight. So we're not talking about big weights here. Hand strength test, leg raises, uphill treadmill jog, all while taking blood pressure readings. Those were the exercises he had to do. Any spikes of systolic blood pressure above 160, that's your top number, he would be excluded from the study right away. And his tended to stay mostly in the 110s or lower. What? That's crazy. Mine would definitely be in the 140s. That's like insane. Okay, so he repeats these exercises 3 to 5 times a week for the next year, and then returns to Ann Arbor, Michigan to see if there's any improvement in his blood pressure or his mental health. So it's so interesting. Those lists of exercises we told you, 3 times a week, 3 to 5 times a week for the next year, and then goes back for a follow-up. So the hope is that more sedentary dissection survivors will actually begin to exercise, movement for movement, some of the things we're talking about, as part of this study, and see that there are going to be positive benefits mentally and physically after a year of steady, albeit modest exercise. Again, we're not talking about exercise that's going to propel your blood pressure high. And for Jack, the biggest takeaway was actually being introduced to the RPE scale. That is the rate of perceived exertion. I've had this scale asked of me. I'm not sure if you did. I've had it asked of me while I was in physical therapy. Your
Yes.
your rate of your perceived exertion,
Yes. During
which is
cardiac rehab.
very different than your actual exertion,
Right.
which that's kind of like the mental component here. But it considers exertion on a scale of 1 to 10, which we're going to see on this chart. 1 being hardly any exertion, and 10 being the maximum possible exertion. And in the middle is moderate activity. So you should be able to carry on a conversation when you're doing these exercises. And vigorous activity would be maybe you're short of breath, but you can at least speak a sentence. So let's take a look at this real quick. So this is the rate of perceived exertion, or your RPEs. So again, a 10 would be you just can't go on anymore. Like, I'm going to just completely collapse if I take another step or I lift another bar, whatever the case is. I'm totally unable to talk. I'm completely out of breath. That's a 10. And if we're looking at moderate activity and your perceived exertion is like a 4 to 6, that would mean you're kind of sort of breathing a little bit heavily, right? You can hold a short conversation. You're still somewhat comfortable, but things are becoming a little bit more noticeably challenging for you. And then it goes all the way down to light activity or very light activity that says hardly any exertion. You feel hardly anything, a little bit more than just sleeping. I don't know what that would be, what activity it would be. It would be watching Love is Blind on Netflix. Okay, that's what it would be. So there's your rate of perceived exertion. Okay. There is a link here to see a video presentation by Dr. Prakash, which you can watch, that actually explains this study. And so this is one of those studies that, yes, you can participate in the community, but please go talk to your physician. Let your doctor tell you if you're able to do these exercises that they're going to require of you 3 times a week for the next year. So there is a commitment, and you need to be able to be committed in order for us to get the right outcomes. You only get out of this what people are willing to put into it. So you can find this by the blog post, or you can click resources. There is a link to research studies, and check it out and see if this is something that you want to participate in. What is everybody's thoughts about this? I'm tired after reading it. My rate of perceived exertion right now is at a 4.
Yeah, I didn't find any. I'm in Delaware. I didn't find any that were within driving distance for me.
No. Unfortunately, it would be great if he paired up with like Hopkins or something
Right.
like that, but I know this is really building up some steam, and I know he's very excited about it. And I honestly am really excited to see these outcomes. While I might not go to the extreme of where the recommendations are, restrictions are, it's just nice to know that we're trying to study a population.
Yeah, I'm happy that they're studying it too.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, how many times are we asked or we read online, what can I do?
And you've said when I first met you that we were like the new generation or the first generation of survivors. So they didn't have people to study before us.
No. And what we mean when we say that is 10, 15 years ago, when you read on Google that the mortality rate was just so high at 5 years and even higher at 10 years after a dissection, really who they're talking about are people that were not monitored. And 70% of people with aortic disease were not monitored because we've only identified about 36 aortopathies or aortic related genes. So that's really, I believe, represents about 30%. It's like a statistic in there. Don't quote me because I'm not a physician. Somewhere in there of the population of aortic disease community members have a known genetic mutation or something that is hereditary that they know. So it's 70% of us that they were sending home. Like, if you didn't have Marfan's or Loewy-Dietz or VEDS, I don't even know if Turner syndrome was discovered then. Definitely ACTA2, I don't believe was. If you didn't have any of these things, you were just said you're fixed, go home, because they didn't know that they had to follow you. And then the mortality rates were growing, and then they realized, well, there must be something here. So let's follow all these people that don't have a known syndrome. And they started seeing, they were finding that they were getting aneurysms, they were having repeat surgeries. Well, as they started fixing them, their life expectancy was being prolonged. It was good. We're part of that now generation where they understand they have to follow through. We're not just being dismissed after surgery. We're not a one and done is what it is. We're a lifetime of being monitored. So that's great.
A couple points on that.
That's where you have to advocate for yourself, because one of the ways I found you was Mine was 4 years ago. And just 4 years ago, I was dismissed and told that I was fixed and I didn't need to see that doctor anymore.
I don't believe it. When you told me that, I was like, no.
That was just 4 years ago.
I know.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So what were you saying, Josh?
Yeah, a couple of points there. Dr. Uleman definitely has a great stance. He says that typically a surgeon only has to work on a patient for that one-off. They show up, it's an emergency, they make their repair, and then they send them on their way. And that's like a typical surgeon. And he was saying during the caregiver meeting, he was like, it's very interesting that as a surgeon now, I get to be a part of a family medical professional because, we're going to test their children, we're going to test their family, and we might be engaged with them from a surgical standpoint for the rest of their life. And so,
Right.
These thoracic surgeons are family doctors in the surgical field, and it's kind of a unique scenario. Also,
100% true.
yeah. Also, he was giving us a history lesson, and way back, they used to try to do a full repair of an aorta, a type A and B at the same time, and the survival rate there was like dismal. And at one point, some doctor was just like, you know what we're gonna do? We're going to repair the A. We're going to let this person heal. We're going to monitor the B, and then we're going to go back in when it's necessary. And that change alone was a massive increase in the survival rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Massive. I mean, when I went in, I had an ascending dissection. As I was put under and they were doing surgery, I then became a type B because I split all the way down to my left iliac. And the doctor just looked and was like, well, that just happened. Okay, let's keep going back to what we're doing. Because they now, like you said, now know that you can just medically manage somebody. Everything looked stable, and that's how it's going to stay until anything changes. But it's amazing because anybody who has a surgeon that says, we're good here, have your relationship with your cardiologist. I guess I kind of can see that surgeon's point of view, but I prefer surgeons that are like Dr. Udelman, that are like my surgeon, that believe that they're now like a family physician. I mean, my surgeon flat out told me, I'm going to know you for the rest of both of our lives, whoever goes first. That's when I guess the relationship changes. And it's true. I'm very close to all my doctors.
He also had one other point. He was saying there's nothing wrong with having a cardiologist look at your scan, but they're not the ones that do the operation, and it's in your best interest to have a surgeon look at your scan. I feel like that's a message we want to make sure that the community really starts to embrace, the self-advocation as well as making sure a surgeon is looking at the thing that was repaired.
Yeah, we do talk a lot about the importance of having your scans done at the exact same facility, time and time again. And that's because it's the same type of machinery that's being used to perform that diagnostic test. I never go by what those results are. I'm not saying that a radiologist does not know what they're saying, right? But radiologists read things different. They just do. They read them differently. Some measure out to out, some measure in to out, in to in. They measure the aorta differently, diagonally versus horizontally. Those 2 or 3 millimeters can make a difference if someone's about to have surgery. So I ignore it as much as I can, and I wait until my surgeon places that scan film over the last one, and then he compares the measurements because he knows where he's measuring. He knows what's going to dictate to him when he thinks it's time to step in. So he will literally lay the films next to each other from 6 months prior, and he can determine exactly what size difference there is. And so these nuances, they're critical. They're really critical. I've had radiologists tell me it's one size, and I've had my surgeon say, no, it's not. Why are you freaking out? It's not. I am looking at your film. It is not that size. I see where they think it's that size, but that's not the size that I believe it is that I'm going to go with. And you got to trust that. So it's important.
You know what else I think is pretty amazing is the new 3D printing. Right? So the surgeon's going to be able to look and hold a 3D printed aorta. And I mean, when you're wondering what the measurement is, like the 3D printing can't be wrong.
Yeah, so it takes a few hours. I don't know how long it really takes, but I know we've spoken with Dr. Stacy Fisher, cardiogeneticist, cardiologist out of Hopkins, and they're doing that now often, printing a personalized 3D model of your heart and your aorta that they can actually take apart and look inside. Like, what? That's so space age. They are as prepared as you can possibly be for surgery. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's not happening at a lot more of the aortic disease centers around the country. It's not happening at your local regional hospital. I would be stunned, but it is going to happen at your larger hospital or your aortic disease center. And so that's a whole other interesting change that's going to come down. You're going to have personalized, developed grafts and for your body. It's incredible. It's incredible. Just the changes in 8 years that I've seen, the changes you've seen in 4 years. I mean, things are steadily technologically becoming amazing.
Okay.
So
Rob jumped into the chat and said, love the added information. Thank you very much. And then 3 heart emojis.
thanks.
I
Thanks so
don't know
much.
which Rob this is. There's no last name. It just says Rob.
2 B's or 1?
1B.
Okay. Not too sure I know either, but thank you,
So
Rob.
here's a good question. Diane says,
Yeah.
could aortic dissection have been out longer but never recognized?
It's
And
been out for so long. Yeah.
well, remember we were talking about like exhuming parents that had quote unquote died of a heart attack to find out that there was an aortic dissection that took
Yeah.
place. And so
Right.
yeah, we
Yeah.
know that it's the most or that it's one of the premier undiagnosed or underdiagnosed lethal things that can happen to you. But yeah, I would
Absolutely.
say that even like when we say or when we hear the words, this is the first generation of survivors that we can study. It's
Mhm.
because of that. It's because we're learning about
Mhm.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're really like that first generation where they've realized that following us is making a world of difference in mortality rates being significantly decreased. And we're also the generation that's promoting the importance of thinking outside of that box. And so now we're finding more people have a better chance at an early diagnosis, decreased transport time, better prognosis because doctors are being trained to think aorta. It's two very simple words that's making a big difference because the first generation are squawking it so much. We're talking about it so much. But there are many people that do not perform autopsies, many people that don't have them done for personal, religious, whatever the reasons may be, circumstantial. And you're right. Oftentimes, when people die suddenly, people will say that was just a massive heart attack. And what they have found is no, it actually probably wasn't. It probably was something aortic related. So, yes, to Diane's point, probably further on in your DNA family history. Although there's enough people that also have a dissection of their patient X, first one in their family, and now you've set off, a scavenger hunt to figure out why this has happened. Okay, share with you Sunday. That's your way to get back if you're interested. Let's take a look at our calendar that I still need to update. So don't pay attention to the difference in colors. But what we've got coming up is our bereavement virtual support group meeting is happening this Thursday on April 10th at 7 p.m. There will be a link attached to this by end of day that you can click on and sign up once. You will be notified every time that we have these bereavement support group meetings. We also have our caregivers virtual support group meeting coming up on the 15th at 4 p.m. Eastern. Every time you see here is Eastern Standard Time. Again, they have their own individual link because these support group meetings are strictly for caregivers, just like our caregiver private forum on Facebook is strictly for caregivers. Again, every Monday we have our weekend review, same time, 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. That's why I want you to hit the bell so you're notified. And coming up on the 18th, we have a live Q&A. If you hit the bell, you'll be notified that you should pop on with us. We are doing a live Q&A with Chef Rob Seltzer and his wife, Mindy, who is, I believe, a dietitian, nutritionist. I sometimes get those words confused, but they are going to be here with us talking about their experiences in those careers and ways that it can benefit the community, giving us a little bit of a sample cooking demonstration, which will allow us to kick off giving you the dates for a live cooking demonstration that's going to be happening in dates in May and dates in June to be announced. That is coming up soon. And then we have our final virtual support group meeting for the general population. This can be anybody. That is on the 26th at 7 p.m. with a special guest that will be in that support group, Dr. Kristen Watson. She actually gave us a presentation, I think it was back in March, about everything prescription related. So this gives you an opportunity to have a little bit more of like a one-on-one closed group setting with her. You can ask some questions about your medications. Again, she's just to give you textbook answers. You're to take that information back to your own physician and have those one-on-one conversations about if that medication seems right for you. But I highly encourage you to participate in that. That will be a closed session that will not be live for everybody to join. Our virtual support group meetings are closed. You sign up for that once, you'll be notified every time that we have that. And I'm pretty sure that I needed to add a couple more of our aorta hangouts. We have another one that's coming up on the 13th. They are happening now every Thursday at 2 p.m. What is an aorta hangout? Aorta hangout is a place for you to grab a snack, grab a drink of choice, sit outside, sit and do whatever you want to do, and just hang out with the community. Place a face with a name of another community member and hang out. It's not heavy. It's not going to be a support group meeting. It's kind of just a, hey, what'd you do last Thursday? How did that shopping extravaganza go? Why do I always go back to shopping? How was Love is Blind on Netflix? You know, it's one, it could be any of those things. I think they actually did, they did one for April Fools. They were talking about, they were talking about like your favorite joke, bring your favorite joke or something.
We had good jokes.
Yeah. So I hear that a lot of people are really enjoying them and just getting a chance to just kind of hang out and chill and meet some of the community members. So those additional dates will be up as well by the end of today.
Yeah. The number one goal of the Aorta Hangout is that it is no news or good news only about your medical condition. They want to make sure that this is a hang. So nothing heavy, everything light and sweet, laughter, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Like you just met up at Panera.
Sure.
So how's
Panera.
the dog? How's the cousin? How was your Easter? How was your Passover? That kind of thing. Hanging out. Right?
Yeah.
How'd you like that New York accent, that Jersey accent I threw in there? I'm going to give you a new one every week. Okay. I'd like to thank Diane and Alex and Alan and Bo and Karen for joining us today and giving us your comments. And whom else?
And Rob.
Oh, and Rob. And Rob. Forgot to write that one down. My apologies. Thank you so much for giving us your opinions and hanging out with us. Tammy, thank you so much.
Always happy to be here.
Good. Come next week because I really like when I have somebody else that's on this with me. So there you go. Josh, thank you as always. All right, guys, don't forget to click like. Please click the bell so that you can subscribe and be notified every time we go live. And don't forget to share and leave a comment. Sharing is caring because you're allowing others to find out about us. And then they get a chance to feel supported and educated like you do. And until next week, I bid you goodbye. So next week, Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern, we'll see you here. Thank you.